Welcome to the Winning Platform Owner Podcast, the podcast dedicated to enabling ServiceNow platform owners with valuable knowledge, tools, and strategies. One of the most common questions I get from organizations just beginning their journey on the ServiceNow platform actually has to do with their ServiceNow team. Well, I love that topic. I definitely have opinions on that topic. And if you're ready to hear the question and my answer to it, then let's go. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Ben Pierce. It's an absolute privilege to be here with you for another episode, and I do thank you for listening. You know, the podcast is relatively new, not even a year old yet, and so every episode is kind of a new adventure still, and I'm still learning a lot and having a lot of fun producing what I hope will be valuable and enjoyable content for my fellow ServiceNow platform owners. I'm recording this episode coming off of another full day of working with platform owners and executive sponsors and ServiceNow teams, and I love it. It's incredibly fulfilling doing that work, but I love doing this even more. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Well, in this episode, we're going to be answering a question that I've been asked a lot, and in fact, I asked it way back when I was first starting out as a platform owner. It's a very common question and probably the most common one I get personally from organizations that are just starting out on the platform. Maybe it feels like a dumb question to people. If it does, it's not a dumb question at all. In fact, it's a very smart question for a new platform owner to be asking. And the question is always asked a little bit differently each time, but it goes something like this. They say, Ben, we're just starting out, so what roles do we need to have on the ServiceNow team? And are there any that are just like really important to have as we're starting out? And are there any that we can just kind of ignore? That was like 3 questions, right? But that's usually how it comes out as people are asking. What I love about the question is that there's actually a lot behind it, right? Usually what people don't say or won't say, at least not right away, are things like, hey, we have limited budget, so whatever you say, I'm probably going to cut it in half and do the best with what I've got. That maybe sometimes goes unsaid. Another thing that goes unsaid is, I don't want to overbuild the team, but actually I'm going to try and overbuild the team just a little bit because this is my only opportunity or my best opportunity to get good headcount for a team. Or sometimes it's even they've got somebody in mind who might be able to bring over from another team. I've seen that happen as well. But no matter what's really behind it, it always comes out as what roles do I need to have on my ServiceNow team to start out. And like I said, it's a great question, and it deserves a thought out answer. Now, this is my opinion, and I have an opinion on this. It's based on experience that I've got. It's based on doing it. It's based on watching platform owners kind of wrestle with it. And so I've got 3 roles for you that I think are the most important as you're starting out, and some things about those roles that I feel like are really important. So I'm going to go through the top 3. Obviously, if you had all the money in the world, if you could wave the magic wand, I would tell you, fill out the whole team, right? Get everybody, get all the roles that ServiceNow recommends, because they don't recommend them for nothing, right? They all play an important part. The reality is, though, as organizations are getting started, sometimes they just can't do all of the roles. In fact, most of the time, they can't do all of the roles. So we're going to go through the top 3, and then I've got a little bit of a bonus content for you and talk about something that might be helpful to you in this same topic area. So let's start out and go through these roles real quick, and we'll talk about each one. talk about why I think they are important. All right, number one on the list is the ServiceNow admin. I feel like this is really just a must-have, and I think probably a lot of people would agree with me. Although I have seen some people kind of entertain the idea of, well, what if we just farm that out, right, to a third party? You can do that. Back years ago, there was lots of offerings around ServiceNow admin from different partners and things like that. And it's an option. There's probably offerings today like that from different partners. I don't know for sure, but I feel like the ServiceNow admin is a must-have on your team. And it's not just somebody that you say, hey, Joe, now you are the ServiceNow admin. There we go. No, this role is a pretty important one. It's actually, if you look at it from ServiceNow's perspective, the ServiceNow administrator is going to be really maintaining the stability and usability of the platform. They're doing maintenance, they're managing support for incidents, they're contributing to some of the releases and just delivering base level configuration tasks and features. So it's kind of a role that is a baseline. You have to have it, in my opinion. That platform admin has to be dedicated, right? They have to, and that I'm not just talking about dedicated to their work. They have to be that. I'm talking about they need to be a dedicated resource. They can't be the ServiceNow admin and, oh, by the way, you're the SharePoint admin. Or, oh, by the way, you're this or that. They really need to be dedicated. They need to be dedicated to administering the ServiceNow platform, because that's a big job. Even if you have just a basic ITSM implementation, administering that platform is a full-time role, in my opinion. And so they need to be dedicated. They need to be well-trained. Don't short training on this particular role. The ServiceNow admin has to really know what they're doing. They have to understand the implications of doing certain things on the platform. They have to understand how important it is maintaining the platform, keeping it up to date, keeping it secure, all of these things. So they really need to be well trained. Get them to that ServiceNow administrator training and get them their certifications. It will pay off for you. So the last thing is they really need to be excited to be there. Some organizations, when they are starting out on the ServiceNow platform, they're actually taking an admin from the platform that they just replaced or the ticketing tool that they just replaced and making that person a ServiceNow admin. And that's great as long as the person is really excited to do that. If they're just kind of like, well, whatever, that may not be the right person for that role, because they need to be there. They need to be totally, fully engaged as a ServiceNow admin when you are just getting going on the platform. So there's number one, ServiceNow admin. The second role that I would recommend to people who ask what the base level roles are that they need on a team as they're starting out is the ServiceNow developer. And you say, how is that different from an admin? And an admin can do development work. But when I say ServiceNow developer, I'm really talking about a role that possesses more advanced capability. They're able to think like a developer, design things, build things, configure. They're able to script a lot more. They're just able to do more advanced configuration and development work on the platform. That's the kind of role I'm talking about. This role also has to be very well trained. They're going to help the ServiceNow admin with incident resolution. Sometimes if it's a more advanced incident that needs more advanced skill, They're definitely going to be designing and developing ServiceNow solutions on the platform. And they're probably going to be providing some mentoring and guidance to either junior developers someday or even your ServiceNow admin. So they're going to take ownership on kind of developing more complex solutions, but they're going to do it in a certain way. And that's what I want to talk about next. So what I like to think about for ServiceNow developers is you need disciplined creativity. Disciplined from the perspective of you can't get crazy and go outside of good practice, development practices on the platform. You have to understand the platform from an architectural perspective and respect that. You can't just go off the deep end and create a whole bunch of customizations that basically add a lot of technical debt to the platform. But at the same time, you have to be creative. This kind of role is creative thinker. They solve things based on their knowledge of the platform in a very creative way. So that ServiceNow developer role has to be really well trained. They have to be disciplined and creative all at the same time. And I would also say that it's a very good idea if you kind of give them responsibility over automated test framework, the ATF. Make them the ATF admin. Just give them that responsibility. The reason I say that is because if you can automate your tests as soon as possible, it's going to help you out tremendously. If they can spend some of their time automating your regression testing so that when the next enhancement comes down the pipe and they develop that, it's very quick to regression test everything, and they're keeping up with that, that is going to set you up for a huge amount of success going forward. Now, it's a lot of work, but if you can get them to do that, if they have the bandwidth and the capacity to do that, you won't be sorry. And then at some point when the load gets too big, maybe you can look at getting a junior developer to come on and take over that. But consider giving it to that role. So that's role number 2, ServiceNow developer. That's what I'd recommend that you have. And they got to be well trained. They got to have discipline, creativity, and consider starting them out right off the bat, automating your tests in the ATF. Okay, so number 3, what's the third role that I would recommend on a brand new ServiceNow team? That role is the business analyst role. And you might say, well, Ben, that seems odd. Wouldn't you want to have some other role? What about a QA person? What about a trainer? What about a scrum master? Those kind of things. Let me tell you why I say business analyst. The business analyst role can really help you out as you are intaking demand, because like with all good business analysts, they're kind of key representatives of your stakeholders. They work with those business users to understand the requirements. They're probably going to write user stories, and they're just going to really understand what the requirements are from those new enhancement requests or new feature requests that you're getting. And they're going to be able to mentally map that back to ServiceNow capability. Not that they're going to design or architect a solution, but they're going to be able to determine, okay, this is how the platform could solve that problem. So you want that kind of a person on the team. You don't want to saddle your developer with that kind of work. They need to be developing. You don't want to saddle your admin with that kind of work, because typically your admin is super busy anyway, and they may not be a great people person. Maybe they are, but the business analyst is definitely a people person. They're well trained. not just in ServiceNow, but they understand how to be a good business analyst. And you can kind of give them almost that relationship management type of role. It's almost like that. So they're a good listener. They listen to understand, right? They don't listen to then regurgitate what they think the best solution is on ServiceNow. They're really trying to understand the problem. And then they go back and they're able to articulate it really well in the form of a story, and it saves all kinds of time for your developer and your ServiceNow admin. So they're good story writers. So the business analyst is really going to help you on the front end of your delivery pipeline, and it's going to save you time. It's going to save your developers time and your developer time and your ServiceNow admin time. So those are the three roles that I usually recommend when people ask. I say you got to have a ServiceNow admin, you got to have a ServiceNow developer, and you got to have a business analyst. If you do nothing else, get those three roles. That's going to help you out, and it's kind of the beginning of building that value delivery machine that really is going to be your expanded out, scalable ServiceNow team. All right, one kind of bonus content, I guess you could call it, just another thing to consider as you are building out your team. You're just getting going. You definitely need these three roles. But something to consider is how will you handle capacity changes, right? Because typically what happens is you implement the ServiceNow platform, you immediately get inundated with all kinds of enhancement requests or new requests for new features. And so how do you handle that? What do you do? Well, it takes a lot of discipline for just those three roles to kind of keep their momentum, not get distracted, keep their discipline in their cadences, and deliver value. The reality is they can only deliver so much. And so then you're looking at, well, do I get another role to add? Do I need another developer, for example? What do I do? And so something to consider in that vein is using a ServiceNow partner to, in essence, extend your team. It basically gives you some scalability to your team. I work for a partner. I work for CrossFuse. We have an offering like this. All kinds of partners have an offering like this. I'm not here to push my particular partner that I work for, although I do think they're pretty awesome. But what you need to think about is kind of three things. So first is these kind of offerings will help you deepen your bench. So if you need some skill that you don't have on the team, you can tap into that partner and get that skill. The other thing is obviously it helps you scale out your capacity, and you can scale it back if you don't need that. It depends on the partner. It depends on the offering. So you definitely want to look hard at those and make sure it fits what you're trying to do. But it can help you scale up and down if you need to. And then the other thing I would say, the advantage that it gives you, and you have to go with a good, well-known partner who's really good at what they do, but it's an opportunity to have your team be able to learn good practice, especially if they're brand new at ServiceNow. Even the well-trained teams can learn things from some seasoned veterans, right? And so you can put yourself in a position where your team can learn good practice. They can kind of understand, hey, how do you do things on this platform in the best way, in the quickest way, those kinds of things. So just something to consider. It's not right for everybody, but something that I always considered as a platform owner, and as I work with a lot of them now, I always remind people that that's an option that they can use. That's the bonus content, and that's all the content that I had for you today. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I enjoy talking about ServiceNow Teams. I love it. It's one of my favorite topics. So reach out to me if you have any questions. You can find me easiest on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Consider sharing it out there on LinkedIn. And I thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.